Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle movies, books, podcasts, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and you're joining us on the second part of our collaboration with the Canadian Independent Micro School for the end of December, where we're discussing with student groups some of the books they're reading for school that made the biggest impact on them. Today, we're going to be learning about two books that really put relationships to the test, both familial and friendships. The first book we'll be hearing about is John Steinbeck's 1937 classic Of Mice and Men, explained to us by Youho, Wayne, and Ryan. The second book we'll be listening to is Catcher in the Rye from 1951 by JD Salinger, explained to us by Lara, Una, and Hayden. Both student groups have a lot to say on these two, so let's not waste any time and just get into it.
Hello, my name is Wayne, and I'm age 12, and I like playing basketball and watching NBA.
Hello, my name is Youho, and I'm 14 years old, and I enjoy watching European football.
Hello, my name is Ryan, and I'm 13 years old, and I enjoy playing Australian football.
Okay, and now can you guys tell me what story you brought for us today?
Today we're doing the story of Mice and Men about two middle-class workers in the late 1930s during the Great Depression in the Dust Bowl.
So I haven't actually read this book before. Do you think you can give me a summary of what happens in Of Mice and Men?
Yes. So the story starts off with two men called George and Lenny. And Lenny, he has the body of a grown man yet possesses the intellectual capacity of a child. And George may be shorter in size and physicality, but he is the smarter one and the more independent one of the two. The two men are living in Salinas Valley, California during the Great Depression, and work is scarce, and they have to find job on a ranch, and they even dream of owning a ranch in the future themselves. They eventually land a job in a ranch, and they meet the workers like the captain, Slim, Curly, Curly's wife, and other workers as well. One of the biggest conflicts that they first faced is when they were entering in the bedhouse. Curly and the other workers were getting into an argument, and Curly saw Lenny smiling. Now, Lenny wasn't smiling at Curly at all. He was merely just dreaming about what he would do on their future ranch, like owning rabbits, because he loved animals.
Oh.
But then Curly mistook that as Lenny mocking him, and this resulted in a fight, which resulted in Curly's arm getting broken.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Whoa.
After this incident, Lenny had requested a puppy from Slim, so Slim gave him the puppy, but Lenny wasn't too sure of his actual strength, so not long after tending to this puppy, he had accidentally killed the puppy. And he tried to hide the puppy in the hay because he didn't want anyone to know so he could still tend the rabbits in the future. But soon a worker came into the barn and figured out that the puppy's dead. But soon later, Curly's wife came in flirting with Lenny, and then she offered Lenny to touch her hair, but Lenny hung on way too long, and eventually when Curly's wife started to scream, Lenny covered her mouth, which ultimately resulted in the death of Curly's wife after Lenny snapped her neck.
Oh my god. It's so dramatic. How does it end?
So basically it ends in because Curly finds out, right? And he gets really angry. So he has a whole team of searchers looking for Lenny because Lenny went into hiding after he accidentally killed Curly's wife. And they had a punishment for him, which I think was hanging. And then so it's really terrible. And George finds Lenny because he told Lenny where to hide. And in order to make Lenny's final moments a little bit better, he retold him the dreams they had of their own farm and ranch and pretended as if it was still possible. And then when Lenny was looking away, he pulled the trigger on Lenny so that his friend wouldn't have to suffer through the punishments.
So he wouldn't have to die by hanging, which is maybe much worse than that.
Yeah. And also, when George found out that Lenny killed Curly's wife, he already knew that their dreams of owning a ranch was already impossible and that this dream was already over.
That's such a sad story. So what made this story so meaningful to you guys?
So, when I was reading Of Mice and Men, it was really touching because not all of us live in such a dire situation like these two men where you have to worry about whether you're going to have food on the table. And it was really special to me because, living in Taiwan is really fortunate for us to live in with a roof over our heads with food on our tables. Most Taiwanese people don't have to worry about this. And, reading this just made me look at life in a different perspective and made me change how I feel about my work, my school work, and how I should, appreciate what I have right now.
Yeah, like Youho said, I also felt like very grateful for what I have. But it also reminds me of what type of friends you should really choose in life. Whether it's friends that will stay with you during your tough times or do the best thing that they can do for you.
And for you?
I also thought about like friendship and loneliness because like throughout the story, it was really clear that George and Lenny are like really, really close friends. And then I just think of like my friends and the things that we do and then the things that we worry about, which is like homework and getting scolded. But then them is about actual like survival and then all these desperate stuff. And then so it's just like really sad reading the book because the best gift that George could have given Lenny was to pull the trigger on him. And he didn't have any other choice. Or else Lenny will have to like go through all the punishments, as I said. And then just to think of that, and then the best friends that my friends can give me are like so much better. And it's it's just so sad. Like none of my friends I think will pull a trigger on me.
That's very good. I hope that's the same for my friends also. So then what do you guys think could make this book special for other people?
I think it's the same as what we said before for ourselves because there are many people in the world who are very fortunate to have a really good life, but others may not. And I think that's one of the biggest issues we face where like people don't recognize that there's other people that don't have as much as they do or have as much opportunities that they do. So I think by reading this book, you actually understand that not everyone is living the same life that you are, but instead you have to understand what other people are going through just by simply acknowledging that there's other people that's not as fortunate as you. It already makes a pretty big deal and it can change the world in lots of ways.
This book can also like teach us on gratitude and like Youho said for life and just in general, but it also teaches us about kindness and how what you do to people or like how you treat people can result in your own success or failures.
I totally agree, but there's another point that I want to add. Is that like today our teachers and parents and the people who we look up to, they tell us to like work hard so that you can have like a good future. But then for these people like George and Lenny, they work really, really hard and then still and that's just really sad because like to compare to our world, like if we work really, really hard, maybe we'll have like a wife and kids and then a successful life and we don't have to worry about starving or anything. But then for them, even if they work really hard, it's just really sad that it wasn't how it worked back in those days.
Yeah, that it was just so unfair.
Yeah.
Right. So then the last question I want to ask you boys is, I believe you guys have a one-phrase subtitle that you agreed on.
Be grateful for what you have.
Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I think what's also important to mention is that a lot of people in this time believe, like Wayne said, if you work hard, might as well just get by. But then even in our modern times where we don't really have to struggle as much, hard work may not be able to cut it. Because in the case of these two men, they work extremely hard. And sometimes all you need is like a little bit of luck as well.
It's also that like it depends on who you are. Like 100 years ago, if you were like a black man in America, you wouldn't have many chances to like thrive as perhaps white men. Also like maybe centuries ago, if you were a woman, nobody will give you the chance to thrive and to like shine.
One more thing is like how we were really taught about power and prejudice. It really demonstrates what type of things that people can do just having authority.
Hi, my name is Yuna. I'm currently 15 years old and I'm from Taiwan, but I've also lived in Malaysia, China, as well as Switzerland for a bit. Two of my favorite hobbies are cooking and baking, and one of my favorite things to bake is brownies.
Hi, my name is Lara. I'm also 15 years old and I lived in Australia for most of my life. I recently moved to Taiwan around 3 years ago, and for me, my hobbies are playing sports such as tennis, swimming, and I often play them with my family, so it's pretty fun.
And so finally, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, my name is Hayden and I'm currently 14 years old. I am half Taiwanese and half Singaporean, but I've also lived in Singapore, China, and Sweden. And my favorite hobby is dancing, and I've been learning it since I was 5 years old.
So let's get into this story that you brought for us today. Can you please tell me what book did you choose and what makes it so special?
Okay, so the book we chose to talk about today is The Catch in the Rye. This book is special in the sense that we watch the main character Holden grow up and become almost a complete opposite of who he used to be.
I have heard about this book many times, but I've actually never read the book. So can you guys please give me a summary of what happens in The Catcher in the Rye?
So the story starts out where we are introduced to Holden. He is recently expelled from his boarding school since he failed all of his classes except for English. So he went back to his dorm where he met up with his roommate Stradlater. His roommate Stradlater told him that he was on a date with Holden's crush Jane, and Holden got a bit offended by that remark. Then Stradlater remarks on Holden's composition that he wrote on behalf of Stradlater about a baseball mitt from his late brother Ali, and it meant a lot to him. But Stradlater told Holden, like, why would you write this, and why would you give this to me to hand in for my English class? So after that, they both got really angry at each other and started a really violent fight where it ended with Holden being severely injured. So after that, he decided to go on a train and just go wherever it'll take him.
So after he got off the train, he called a cab, and eventually he says that he wants to go to this really low-end motel where no one will know him. And when he gets there, he immediately goes to the bar, which he is probably not allowed to because he is very underage.
Okay.
But he goes there anyways. He tries to talk up 3 girls there, but those 3 girls ended up using him for his money. So after he paid, he met this elevator guy who asks him if he wants a prostitute for the night.
Wow.
Yeah. So, well, he agrees. He said that he'll pay for it. So then when he gets back to his room, the prostitute comes, and instead of wanting to do whatever a prostitute is supposed to do, Holden says that he just wants to talk. But the prostitute got really mad. But eventually he decides that he wants to see his younger sister, Phoebe, who is still at home.
So basically he wants to meet his sister Phoebe, and they have quite a connection actually. And basically she sneaks in, and her sister's very attentive, and throughout the night, the two were conversing through what happened, and eventually she found out Holden had been kicked out of school, and she got really, really upset. She started crying, but eventually the two kind of reconciled together, and eventually he had to tell her that he needs some money because he's going to go out. But then he promised Phoebe that he would come back and watch her school play, and they kind of leave it at that for the night. But then when Holden leaves to go to his professor's house, but then Holden woke up in the middle of the night to his professor patting his head, and he believed this to be some perverted action to the point that he just left the house. And that was the moment where he decided he wanted to leave town, leave this country, and just go somewhere where no one could ever find him. So he wrote a note, and the next day, he gave it to his sister's school, oh, Phoebe, I'm sorry, I'm leaving the country. Meet me at the museum that's next to your school, and we will have one last conversation before I leave for good. And he was kind of waiting around, and Phoebe finally showed up. But Phoebe was holding a suitcase, and she was like, I'm leaving with you. And so the two go back and forth on arguing about who's coming, and eventually Holden says, fine, I'm not leaving. And eventually they go to a park and there's like a carousel there. So Holden gives Phoebe some money to go on the carousel, and she is really, really happy. And he finally realizes how much he needed Phoebe and how much Phoebe truly meant to him. And it was at that moment he actually realized what kind of life was about. And the book ends with like him moving on with his life, whereas he doesn't actually leave town, and he probably reconciles with his parents. It's kind of unclear, as it's kind of an open-ending book. And it says that he's moved on, perhaps to a new school, and he misses the people in his past, and he really loves his sister.
Wow, that's so sweet. I didn't think it would end so nicely when you told me how it started off.
Yeah.
So can you guys tell me then, what made this book so meaningful to you?
Well, some of us have siblings, and we really connected with Phoebe and Holden, like their relationship together, because everyone, personally for me, I've been at those times when I've been at my absolute lowest, and everything around me, like I felt like giving up, and I just was in this like kind of dark hole where I just kept going deeper and deeper. And my sister also brought me out. She knows me like really well. She's really close with me, and when reading the book, I just felt that immediate connection that Holden had with Phoebe as I do with my sister, and that connection just really like brought like a new sense of kind of connection I have with the book itself.
Yeah.
Eventually that you'll start to realize when you're reading the book that everyone kind of has a Phoebe in their lives. Everyone has someone who's always there for them, someone who would give up everything for them, whether it's like a family member or a friend. And I feel like someone that just fills in the void when you really need them is like really important and really special in people's lives. And when reading throughout the book, you never really realize how much Holden is struggling and how much he's going through until the very, very end, when he finally has someone there and he realized what he's been missing out this entire time. So I feel like that's kind of what made the book really special and really connected with us.
Oh, good. So that was like something you all three agreed on. Do the other two of you have siblings?
I have 2 older brothers.
Oh, are you as close with them as Lara with her sister?
Yeah, we're very close together.
Wow. And is that the same for you?
I personally don't really have any siblings, but I do have really good friends who is that Phoebe for me.
That's important. You know, you can have your family and then you can have what we call your found family. So can you guys tell me then, what do you think could make this book special for others?
Yeah, for us, we all agreed that this book doesn't really have a specific plot point, or it doesn't have a storyline where it goes like, oh, rising action and then climax and things like that. But it feels like you're going on this journey with Holden where he's trying to discover who he really wants to be or what he wants to do. And one funny thing is that all 3 of us don't specifically like Holden as a character. We do find him a bit annoying as he compulsively lies or he calls everyone phonies. But all 3 of us see parts of us in him, whether it's good or bad, that we can relate to. And that's what makes Holden such a genuine character that we do love in some parts. Because all 3 of us are teenagers too, same as Holden. And Holden is seen as this teenage boy that is sort of frustrated about life. He wants to grow up and he wants to be taken seriously by adults, but at the same time, going through the story, he realizes that he doesn't want to give up his childhood. And I feel like that's what a lot of teenagers struggle with growing up. And that's why Holden is such a character that everyone can sort of relate to. And I feel like that's why I would love for others to read this book too.
Oh, good. And so the last thing I'm going to ask you is, you should all have a tagline that I believe you agreed on.
Sometimes all you need is somebody.
One thing that like a person really needs is just someone who's always there for you, whether it's like a family member, a friend, just someone that kind of understands you the way you are and kind of accepts you with all your struggles and all your scars.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. You've been listening to Tales of Our Time on Radio Taiwan International, and I was your host, Amanda Stevens, with special guests Youho, Wayne, Ryan, Lara, Yuna, and Hayden. Special thanks to teachers Kat Treitz and Liam Fanning for helping the students prepare. Today we learned about Catcher in the Rye and Of Mice and Men. Join us next week for the last part of our collaboration with the Canadian Independent Micro School and to hear more students tell us about Tales of Our Time. We'll see you next time.